Derrick Evans on the Matt Buff Show at Derrick Evans for West Virginia, 4WV. Great to have you, Derrick.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's just your story was amazing. I was reading through everything that you've been through, and it's they treated you worse than anybody who actually did actual crimes. But I just watched the things that are being handed out to illegal immigrants in the country as they get off the bus, and they get a round of applause and a thank you note and a warm cot. But man, if you protest the stolen election of Joe Biden peacefully, we're going to throw the book at you.
Well, that's exactly right, man. You can break into this country, but you can't, quote unquote, break into the Capitol. First of all, we didn't break into the Capitol, but even if we did, it's crazy to me that we'd be getting punished worse than people who break into our country. I mean, we're American citizens. We pay for that building. We walk through open doors, as you know, but still, nonetheless, it's crazy, Tom, to be alive right now. And as crazy as my story is and what they did to me, I'm fortunate compared to what so many of my fellow January 6th political prisoners have went through and are still going through today.
Well, that's one thing I wanted to talk about with you too, because so many of them, I'm sorry, something just came up. So many of them are still languishing in prisons and getting no court cases. And now we're heading into 2024, which means it's 3 years of this nonsense. And I don't think the Republican Party has pushed enough to get these guys pardoned.
Oh, not at all. And so for me, a lot of people wonder, well, how'd you get out so soon? Part of the reason is I was the first person arrested. I was arrested January 8th. So 2 days after January 6th, I was arrested. So I've been fighting this since day one. They're still arresting people today. Just, the last week, they've been arresting people around the holidays even. But to your point, we've got a bunch of spineless jellyback rhinos representing us in Congress. They love to take photo ops. They love to talk a big game in the media and fundraise off of January 6th. But quite frankly, when it comes time to actually stand up against the radical left and do something about it, they're nowhere to be found. Could you imagine if Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House, Trump was still the president back during the Summer of Love, and that the Antifa BLM protesters were being held in solitary confinement for peacefully protesting, not the ones who destroyed things, but the peaceful protesters? They would have shut this entire country down if that's what they had to do in order to get these people released. But the Republicans don't seem to care.
No, they don't seem to care at all. And those people that did burn down the buildings during the Summer of Love, they got bailed out by Kamala Harris's Act Blue campaign. So that's something there. It's just remarkable. What they see as criminals is what we see as good guys, and what we see as criminals, they see as good guys. Right is wrong, up and down. And this is later on in the show, we're going to play a massive amount of stupidity from America. It's going to make you just cringe from the Americans of TikTok. But Derrick, it's just when we look at what happened to you in the not just solitary confinement, but how they portray you online today, right now. If you go to your Wikipedia page, people use Wikipedia to destroy. They said you were part of an attack, like it was like you in a F-16 shooting at the Capitol. The way they describe you on Wikipedia.
Oh, even better, if you go to the prison where I was held, FCI Milan. I was in Milan, Michigan, federal prison. And if you go to their Wikipedia page, it has a list of notable inmates. And the reason I bring this up is obviously I'm one of the notable inmates. But the fascinating part about that is, if you remember the Christmas bomber back in, I think, 2002, the Al-Qaeda member had bombs in his shoes and tried to get on an airplane. He was in that prison. The alleged leader of the Sinaloa cartel in that prison. Mass murderers in that prison. And yet they want to say that I am equal. Other alleged members of Al-Qaeda, I mean, known terrorists are in that prison where I was held, and then they want to pretend that I'm as equally as bad as those people are. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, the media is a big narrative in that. You ask people on the street. I've seen the videos from Mark Dice and others where they say, who's worse, Trump or Hitler? And the left, they always say Trump is worse than Hitler. I mean, they painted a picture that by you walking through the Capitol and saying, you know what, I don't feel this election was on the up and up, then you're worse than Hitler. And you belong with those guys, because to protect the steal, they have to shut up anybody who protests the steal.
Well, Matt, the reason they came after me so hard is I was the highest ranking government official they could get their hands on. People forget I was elected to the West Virginia State House. And so I was there, and I was the only, think about all the people across the country who ran and said they were MAGA and ran on all this stuff. And when it came time to actually stand with the American people, I'm the only elected legislator in the entire country who had the courage to do so and got arrested and thrown in prison for doing it. But, the frustrating thing is not even what the mainstream liberal media did to us in painting this narrative of calling us insurrectionists, domestic terrorists, and all these other things. I expect that out of them. The frustrating part to me is the so-called conservative media who remained silent during this whole time, would not allow us to come on their platform and share the truth about that day. So for 2 years, it was all one-sided, and conservative media was nowhere to be found in terms of having our backs.
Yeah, not at all. And just like we talked about the prisoners, they're still spineless about this.
Yep.
So you're making a gladiator-like return to public life, which is pretty remarkable. You got a lot of great media and a lot of great backing out there. And it turns out you're running to represent the southern half of West Virginia in Congress this time. So it's like Russell Crowe in The Gladiator, right? You were a public servant. They throw you and lock you away and throw away the key. You get out, and now you're looking for bigger things to help the American people. Talk about how the campaign's going and what people are saying.
Well, as I said earlier, they came after me so hard because I was elected to the state house here in West Virginia, and that's why they came after me so hard. But really, the joke's on them. This is one of the reddest districts in the entire country. It's one of the most MAGA districts in the entire country. I've already won a state house race here before, and so the people I'm pretty well known. And we've been endorsed by General Flynn, Mike Lindell, Veterans for Trump, Laura Loomer. I'm the only congressional candidate in the entire country Laura Loomer has endorsed. And so, look, we got a lot of support. We've got over 4,000 donors. We're polling great. We haven't spent a single dollar in our campaign yet in terms of actual campaigning. And we're polling at 45% against a 6-year rhino right now. So we're looking great right now. I think the joke's going to be on them. I tell everyone this is not just my campaign. This is our campaign. If you're out there and you've been wanting to send a message to the swamp and to the deep state, and you're looking for someone, a patriot who's not going there to make friends, and someone who's actually going to stand up and has already proven they're willing to stand up and take this on, then what a better message to send than to send a former January 6th political prisoner to Congress to go kick in the front door and expose corruption.
Well, Laura Loomer, that's a tough get. Not bad.
Yeah.
That's a tough get.
She's a tough one, man. I'm very, very proud of that. And like I said, I'm the only one in the entire country that she's endorsed in terms of congressional candidates. And so I'm very proud of that.
How can we tell people to feel secure about their vote? We've been pounding it. We openly talk about the details of the stolen election with the Dinesh D'Souza, who comes on the show regularly. We've talked about the mules, and he broke down what happened there. We've talked to Joe Hoff from the Gateway Pundit, who wrote the Steele Volume 1, 2, and 3 with receipts. We talk about what happens, but we don't want people to get discouraged, because we think as an American, you should be able to handle the truth of what happens, and then we give you tools to overcome that. And Derrick, one tool to overcome an attempted theft of an election is to show out in droves.
Absolutely. First of all, Dinesh D'Souza, Joe Hoff, I consider both those guys friends. They're amazing patriots. Dinesh with the Police State movie. If somebody hasn't seen that, get out and watch that movie. But to your point, first of all, I'm endorsed by Mike Lindell. So obviously, I believe long-term, we got to get rid of the machines, move to paper ballots, counted by hand, single-day voting, all those good things. But in the meantime, to your point, we've got to outvote the algorithms. Here's the thing. They did the same thing in 2016. We outvoted the algorithms. So they were shocked that President Trump won because so many people voted in droves. In 2020, they thought they had it figured out with all the melons. We once again outvoted the algorithm in 2020. And therefore, they had to resort to all these last-minute shenanigans of stopping the vote in so many states. Had people not shown out in the mass numbers that we did, we never would have found the truth. We never would have been able to expose everything that happened surrounding that phony selection to install this illegitimate Biden regime. So in 2024, we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to our children. We owe it to everybody who's made sacrifices along the way to get out and vote like we have never voted before. And I think we've exposed a lot of this corruption. It's going to be harder for them to do it again. Let's go out, vote the algorithm for a third time, and I think we can do it.
I think we can too. And make sure to get, if you want to help out, you can be a poll watcher. You can be a volunteer. And that the shenanigans that Derrick was talking about, if you remember, it was 2:30 in the morning on election night where, oh my God, we had a water main break. Oh my God, we had to get this out from under here. Oh my God, we had to stop the voting. I was doing a live call-in show. And then all of a sudden, the news stations all over said, I guess they're stopping the voting. No big deal. Nothing to see here, because they're all part of it. You don't stop the count just so you can fix the count. That's right. Joe Biden was installed.
Yes.
And they knew he couldn't win on his own. And they're doing the same thing now, Derek. They're trying to take Trump off the ballot because they've been exposed for all the things you just talked about. So let's just take him off the ballot and take it to the Supreme Court. I know he got reinstated today, but depending on the Supreme Court hearing. But if the Supreme Court was a bunch of lefties, Trump would be off the ballot in 17 states.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, the real insurrection occurred on November 3rd, 2020, when they stole the election from President Trump and the American people. And, then they threw myself and many others in prison for having the courage to peacefully protest their crimes against this country. I'm on the record. I think the first thing we need to do is have a prisoner exchange. We need to throw the people in prison, the people who stole the election in prison in exchange for the January 6th protesters and get them released. But I don't know if you know this, Matt, it was kind of breaking as you were starting your show. Yes, Colorado is allowing him back on the ballot for now, but Maine has just removed Trump from the ballot in Maine. Not judges, not anything like that. The Democrat Secretary of State in Maine single-handedly has, at least for now, has removed President Trump from the ballot in Maine. I despise the Democrats, but I'll tell you right now, I wish and pray that we had Republican representatives who had enough courage to fight like the Democrats do.
The reason this is history making, and everybody's like, well, Maine, who cares? Well, it sets a precedent. That's why we care. The problem in Maine is they're using that same Fourth Amendment garbage, the section about insurrectionists. Yep. Nobody has been charged here, mind you, with insurrection. Trump has not been charged with insurrection. So they're doing this without a trial, without a hearing. And that very proposal was put in after the Civil War to make sure we don't go back to slavery policies or trade policies that are detrimental to the rest of the country, because many Southern generals and Confederate members of the army they were installed high up in the government after that. And they were considered an insurrectionist during the Civil War.
Yeah, to your point, they created this for the people in the Confederacy, like you said, and the very people they created this for, I can't remember which president it was shortly after, actually, did away with and allowed these people to go ahead and run. So it was a way to unify the country. And so the people who was literally charged, and I believe even some of them were actually convicted of insurrection from serving in the Confederacy, ended up serving and holding office under the new Union, if you will, after the Civil War. So this thing is absolutely ridiculous. And I do want to clarify something. No one has been charged criminally with insurrection, but Coy Griffin, there's only 2 elected officials in the entire country who got arrested for January 6th. It's myself, and then Coy Griffin's a county commissioner in New Mexico. The same group going after President Trump, CREW, CREW, which is funded by George Soros. They've dabbled around with coming after me here in West Virginia. They went full stop after Coy last year, and the Republicans were nowhere to be found. Once again, left Coy by himself. He had no money. He's not an attorney. He had to fight these multi-million-dollar attorneys by himself. They actually removed Coy from his seat as county commissioner using civil insurrection, and that is what has set the precedent for them now to turn around and do this against President Trump. They don't have to charge him criminally. They can charge him with civil insurrection, just like they did Coy Griffin. We were shouting it from the rooftops, trying to get Coy some help, and Romney McDaniel and the Republicans were nowhere to be found, and he was illegally and unconstitutionally removed from office.
That's why we need Vivek to run, be president, and you can be in the House.
There we go.
Everybody's like, Trump, no. Give me Vivek, man. Give me Vivek. If you really want to get stuff done, if you really want to drain the swamp and get those people out, if you want to destroy the unions, the public sector unions in America, Vivek's our guy. But he just doesn't have the name recognition like you do, Derrick Evans.
Well, listen, I'm Trump, ride or die. I mean, I started this whole thing with Trump. I went to prison. I sat in solitary confinement, all those things. But I'll tell you this, I love Vivek Ramaswamy. If for some reason, a lot of people talk, if Trump wasn't on the ballot, everybody's going to get behind DeSantis. No. I believe if he's going to be on the ballot, Trump's going to be our nominee. Trump's going to be our next president in 2024. Can't wait to save this country with President Trump. And I can't wait to stand on the national stage beside of President Trump and beat the drum of freedom for every single God-fearing conservative across this country. But if he was not for some reason on the ballot, the MAGA would get behind Vivek Ramaswamy. I really believe that.
I 100% believe that, because he says a lot of things that just resonate that it's just tough for somebody like me to watch these debates because it's empty suits talking. But then Vivek says the election was stolen. The climate change is a hoax. And I'm just like, this is awesome, man. You're talking like me. And I just believe him. But Trump gets a second chance here. He already won it twice, but this third run that allows him to get in there, he's for real. Derrick Evans has to drain the swamp, and people like you have to hold him accountable.
I have no doubt that he will. I mean, I think that the first go around, number one, I don't think that anybody, including President Trump, truly realized how deep and powerful and corrupt the swamp was. I'll tell you, I've been in the middle of the swamp. They drug me into the middle of it. I went through the whole system at this point. I don't believe I could. I don't think I could put it into words just how powerful and corrupt this swamp really is. And just as important as it is for us to win the presidency in 2024 and get President Trump back in office, we're going to have to get him some help, some reinforcements in the House. If you remember, the first 2 years in 2016, Republicans had control, but we had a bunch of rhinos like Paul Ryan and others who were fighting all of America First policies every step of the way. We need people who are going to push those policies and once again, not stand behind President Trump. This man's taken enough arrows and enough heat from the media and enough attacks. We need people who's willing to stand in the trenches beside of President Trump and say, you know what? You can send some of those attacks my way. I'm going to lock arms with this guy. We're not going to back down. We're not going to cower. We're here to save this country, whatever it takes.
Well, we're making good progress in the House. The rhinos are now the minority in the Republican Party. That's a good start because back then in 2015, they were the majority.
Yep.
Now we've got them down to the minority. And yes, President Trump, Chip Roy is not a rhino. Just because he supports DeSantis, Chip Roy is a fantastic American and a great patriot. And Derrick Evans would be a great person in the House because that journey to getting the rhinos out starts with one member at a time. How can people jump in and help the campaign? Where can they follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on all the major social media platforms, True Social, Twitter. I got different names on all of them because I've been deplatformed so many times at this point. I'm debanked, deplatformed. I'm on every domestic terrorist watch list you can think of. You can go to my website, evansforwv.com. That's evansforwv.com. You can go over there. There's a button you can click to donate on the homepage. Once again, we're not backed by the big pharma. We're not backed by the military industrial complex. We got over 4,000 American patriots, small dollar donors across this country who contributed to our campaign. That's the lifeblood of our campaign. Those are the people we're going to answer to. Go over there, throw in $5-10. It goes a long ways, helps more than you can imagine. This is the last campaign finance report that the Trump team or anyone else will probably be looking at before they make their determination as to who they're going to endorse in our race. So it's a huge, we're trying to sprint through that finish line and turn in a big number, out fundraise our opponent, which we believe we're on pace to do. If you don't want to do that, click join our team, and you can, from anywhere in the country, you can phone bank, text, all these different things. We got people helping us all over the country. And if you don't want to do any of those things, add us to your prayer list. This is spiritual warfare. This is truly good versus evil. We need all the prayers you can get.
They boarded up the businesses around Washington, D.C. because they feared the left would violently attack if Trump won again. This was before the election. Now, last question, last thought. Everybody jump in and help out, Derrick. But last question to you. This might be a tipping point, this election in 2024. Both sides are too far apart to save a unified America. This might be a tipping point when it comes to violence in 2024. Your thoughts on that? And the movies industry is pushing that. They're pushing that narrative too. A lot of Civil War movies coming out.
So yeah, they are. They're pushing that narrative. They're trying to desensitize everyone to that and kind of pre-program people to that, which is absolutely despicable on their part as well. And I hate this phrase because I feel like it's been so overused in the past. If this is the most important election in American history or most important election in your life, listen, as someone who's went through everything you can imagine in terms of this tyranny, we live under more tyranny today than our founding fathers did in 1775. I promise you this, in my opinion, I've never said this. You can check. Well, you can't check my social media. It's all been deplatformed. But I promise you, I've never said that this is the most important election ever. This truly is the most important election in, I believe, our country's history. Believe it or not, I think we're at a crossroads. To your point, and I think that we're going to have to win back the White House to even have a chance of saving this country. So I really believe that. I think everyone needs to pray for our country. We're in some very rocky waters right now.
We certainly are. It's quite scary when you think about it, but that doesn't mean you back down. You don't hide from fear. You confront it, and that's what we're facing here in 2024. Everybody Go check out Derrick Evans. Derrick, thank you so much for joining us on the show and talking about and breaking news on the show. Thank you for breaking news on the show with Maine.
Thank you so much for having me on, Matt. I really appreciate it, man. God bless you. Hope you have a happy new year.